Jupiter retrograde in Gemini, October 9th, 2024. Re-examining our philosophy on life based on new information that we've acquired in the past few months, or possibly reevaluating our moral or spiritual belief systems based on new information. Hello, my name is Eliane Nicole. I'm your astrologer and tarot reader, and in this video I will be talking about the transit of Jupiter stationing retrograde in the sign of Gemini, October 9th, 2024, where it will appear to be traveling retrograde until February 4th of 2025. So this is one of the transit energies that will be taking us into the new year. And if you are watching this on Instagram, I am only going to post the first 5 minutes here. The entire video will be available on my YouTube channel, Eliane Nicole. My YouTube channel is my name, Eliane Nicole, so please find me there. I will post a link in the bio on my Instagram, which is astrology.tarot.Eliane Nicole. So please follow me there if you're not already following me there. And let me know, do you want me to continue to post the first 5 minutes of my YouTube videos on Instagram? Because if you do, please like, please comment, and please share so that I know that you want me to continue to post these on Instagram. Otherwise, I'm thinking of only posting on YouTube from now on and just posting a link in my stories at Instagram. And also, actually, if you are watching this on YouTube right now, please make sure that you subscribe to my channel. Please hit the notification bell so you're notified every time I post a new video. Please like, please comment, please share. This all helps me in the algorithm, lets me know that you appreciate these free astrological offerings, and puts me in a position to continue to post these free astrological offerings. But I encourage you to contact me for a one-on-one reading, because I believe that that is how astrology works the best. When you are working one-on-one with an astrologer, it is my joy and my love to work one-on-one with clients, and I will post the information in the notes of how to book with me. But you can go to my website, elianenicole.com, and book directly there. Now, without further ado, I will get into the translation of Gemini, Jupiter retrograde in Gemini. So Jupiter spends about 32% of the year retrograde, so it's a part of the natural ebb and flow of Jupiter's movement in the solar system. Jupiter is considered the great benefic, so Jupiter is very much associated with gifts and abundant prosperity, grace, good fortune, expansion, growth, magnification. Jupiter has a lot to do with our morality or our philosophy on life, our spiritual belief systems. And so Jupiter is definitely one of the planets that points to the good stuff of life, the things that we tend to enjoy the most as human beings in our experience on planet Earth. And when Jupiter goes retrograde, you will find different astrologers that have a slightly different spin on what it means. Astrology is definitely a holistic art, and so you always have to take it into consideration with how all of the other planets are placed in the sky, and Jupiter is always going to express itself slightly differently in different signs, and depending on how it is relating to the other planets and how they are currently positioned in the sky. Jupiter in Gemini, it's not Jupiter's favorite sign to be in, but this doesn't mean that it doesn't deliver its gifts still. Jupiter is the great benevolent, so it is always optimistic, and it is always looking at the glass half full, even when it's dealing with more limiting circumstances. Which brings me to one of the interpretations of Jupiter retrograde in Gemini. I think we are reviewing during this time where we do have limiting beliefs or limiting ideas that may be somehow holding back our spiritual health or our ability to expand in the way that we want to in life, or to achieve our aspirations, our higher aspirations, or our higher vision for our life. And so between now and February, we may be doing some inner spiritual work so that we can identify where we have limiting belief systems or limiting ideas about ourselves or the world or our relationships or others that may be holding us back in the full potential and our full potential to expand or to achieve those higher aspirations. And forgive me if I'm repeating myself. I am not going off a script. I study the astrology and then I just transmit and do a channeled reading with the prayer that I am delivering, in the knowledge, the astrological wisdom for the highest good of anyone who is listening. And Jupiter also has to do with wisdom, right? It has to do with philosophy and wisdom and morality and spirituality. In people in our lives, Jupiter often represents, priests or rabbis or imams or gurus. Jupiter can represent judges, philosophers, professors, sometimes lawyers, certain kinds of lawyers, certainly. And so as Jupiter retrogrades, it is, and astrologers know that planets aren't really moving backwards. It's just the way that they appear from our vantage point on planet Earth because of the speeds. But when they appear retrograde, it's at the point that they are closest to the Earth. And so the expression of that planetary energy is magnified. And so these ideas, these Jupiterian ideas are magnified, or the presence of these Jupiterian figures in our life may be magnified during the retrograde. And Jupiter is stationing at 21 degrees Gemini. So this is going to be a very personal transit for people who have planets at 21 degrees of any of the mutable signs, give or take a degree. And the mutable signs are, of course, Gemini. This will be very personal for Virgo, Pisces, Sagittarius. And it's also going to be personal for anyone who has planets at 21 degrees, give or take a degree, of the air signs, Aquarius, Libra, Gemini, because this transit will be directly interacting with planets in your personal chart if you have planets at those degrees. But either way, it's going to be a present transit for the collective. And so we're taking Jupiterian themes, topics, or Jupiterian people. And these are things that will be magnified during this time. And also Gemini, where Gemini and Jupiter meet. Gemini has to do with conversations. So you might be finding that if you have any planets at 21 degrees Gemini, this is a time that you are talking, you are communicating with a rabbi, a priest, an imam, a priestess, a guru, somebody, a professor, a judge, a lawyer. as Jupiter stations, it's forming a trine with Mercury in Libra. And so this can be around a contract or a negotiation, or this can be around the topic of marriage or relationships, justice, beauty, art. And the trine indicates an expansive conversation or possibly good news around these topics. And so it's a harmonious transit. And it's also in a sextile to Chiron, the wounded healer, as it stations, who's at 21 degrees Aries. So this could also be personal to people who have, Aries placements around these degrees. And Chiron, the wounded healer, can mean good news from a doctor or a therapist or a healer or a mentor. Chiron often represents mentors. And this aspect with Chiron in particular lasts over 6 weeks. The aspect to Mercury is quicker moving, but it'll last, you might feel it a week before to a week after. The Chiron aspect is, longer. All of these aspects that I talk about are cycles. They come in like waves. So even though there's an exact day that the aspect perfects, depending on how fast the planets involved are moving, it can last over a longer period of time. And that's why I always encourage you to get a reading one-on-one with an astrologer to understand the timing around these planetary energies a little bit better. But yeah, and so there is so much that I can say about Jupiter and Gemini. There are several important planetary alignments that he will be having between the station on October 9th and when he stations again February 4th. And maybe I should talk about the aspects closer to the time that they happen. I mean, I can touch on them now. So November 3rd, which is an aspect happening right before the election, he's opposing Venus in Sagittarius. And one of the shadow sides of Jupiter and Gemini, especially in a harsh aspect with a planet in Sagittarius, there can be an embellishing of the truth. I won't call it a lie, but an embellishing of the truth. And when he's opposing Venus in Sagittarius on November 3rd, this can be someone embellishing the truth in a romantic situation or a situation around justice or art or beauty. On November 18th, he's forming that same opposition with Mercury in Sagittarius. And this really looks like an embellishing of the truth. And he will go back retrograde with Mercury in Sagittarius and again be making that opposition to Mercury. So this is a theme that's kind of going on from, November into December. And then December 7th, opposing the Sun in Sagittarius. So with the oppositions that Jupiter will be making to the planets, Venus, Mercury, and the Sun in Sagittarius, from November 3rd through November 7th, I do see that there is some maybe tall tales that are being told, maybe an embellishing of the truth, because Jupiter magnifies whatever it's at, whatever it is aspecting. And with Gemini and Sagittarius, this can become embellishments around words, belief systems, truth, and such. And I will maybe do other videos where I dig more into these ideas as we get closer to the aspects, but I don't want to make this video too long. And there's always many different ways that the energies can express. December 9th is the trine with Venus. By this time, Venus will be in Aquarius. This shows this is a very good luck day to look out for. On December 24th, the square with Pisces, and this has a lot to do with governance, and this is part of a larger story that began when Jupiter and Saturn had their first square August 19th, and will go all the way until the spring of next year, as they will be forming 3 exact squares. And this has a lot to do with the shifts and the changes that are happening with systems and structures and the governance. These are more collective transits, although they will affect people in their personal charts who have personal planets at 14 degrees of Pisces, Gemini, Sagittarius, or Virgo. And in the new year, there will be Jupiter and Gemini retrograde will form a square to Venus and Pisces. I do believe that even though this is a square, because it's squaring an exalted Venus, there's going to be a lot of beauty and good luck to this transit. I think when the benefics are in a square, there's still a lot of good and grace that comes, but sometimes it can be too much of a good thing, or people possibly taking for granted their blessings because they're so abundant and coming so easily. I always say you have to recognize the blessing to receive it. And January 30th is another extremely good luck day, as Jupiter retrograde in Gemini will be trining the sun in Aquarius. And finally, as Jupiter finishes its retrograde, it will be trining Mercury in Sagittarius, which I love because it begins the retrograde trining Mercury in Libra, and it will end the retrograde trining Mercury in Aquarius. And so this Jupiter retrograde starts with good news and ends with good news. But the overall umbrella is definitely a re-examining of our life philosophies during this time, based on new things that we're learning. I think Jupiter and Gemini in general, from May of 2024 to June of 2025, really has to do with a big learning curve that we're having in some area of our lives and our personal charts. And for the collective, it's an overall learning curve just based on how the world is changing and new things we're learning, new information that's coming out that we've never known before. And so, part of the reason Jupiter is considered in its fall or detriment in Gemini is because Jupiter is so much about the big picture, and it's so much about faith. And Gemini wants to know the facts, and Gemini is about the details. And so there is an inherent tension there. But Jupiter, the benefic, is always going to deliver blessings and is always going to deliver good news. You can never hamper that about Jupiter. But it is definitely significant when the largest planetary body in our solar system is stationing retrograde, and in Gemini in particular, this is the magnification of information that the great benefic thinks it's important for us to know. It's important for us to pay attention to. So I would definitely pay attention to the messages that you're receiving on October 9th as Jupiter stations, the conversations that you are having, particularly with Jupiterian figures, whether that be religious or spiritual figures in your life, figures in your life around higher education or higher learning, and just these topics of faith and spirituality and morality as they are coming up, you know, in your life, could be very significant around this time. And, you know, there's more that I could say around how it's affecting the chart of the US in particular, but I don't really want to go too far down that rabbit hole. You know, I really have to pick and choose. Like, am I doing personal astrology? Am I doing collective astrology? Am I doing both? You know, I would love to hear from you about what you're interested in hearing more about, the personal astrology or the collective astrology, but I don't want the videos to be too long, and so I try and break it down into sections where, you know, it might be easier to, you know, intake and process the information. You know, there are so many different ways that the astrology expresses. It's truly, you know, multivalent. But yeah, the retrograde period can bring Jupiterian people back into our lives. I don't know. I guess that's all I'll say for now. I think that the shadow side can have to do with finding out areas where Jupiterian figures may not have been as honest as we would hope for those type of figures to be, such as spiritual leaders or judges or lawyers, etc. That can be a theme. Only when it's coming into opposition or square do I think that that will come up. You know, because in general, I do think Jupiter is a benefic and is mostly, you know, wanting to deliver gifts and blessings in terms of, you know, this is a mind expanding transit, Jupiter and Gemini, for the year from May 25th to May 25th, 2024 to June of 2025. I posted a video May 25th, 2024 on what Jupiter and Gemini means in general, and I would encourage you to go back. For some reason, that video didn't get a lot of views. I don't think it was boosted very much in the algorithm because I wasn't posting as consistently then, and so, but I'll put a link to that video because there's a lot of valuable information just on what Jupiter and Gemini means in general for the entire year transit. So I encourage you to go back and watch that. I'm wearing like a hot pink blazer in that video, May 25th, 2024. I posted it. Again, I'll post the link in the notes. And yes, thank you for joining me. You know, that's just a brief overview, broad strokes. There's always so much more I could say about the transit. I'm just touching on some of the key points. And yeah, stay tuned. I'll be posting more videos coming up about some of the further October transits. October is definitely an exciting month astrologically. Thank you for joining me. Have a blessed Jupiter retrograde in Gemini.